I have always considered myself a person with strong self-esteem. I carried myself with confidence, set high expectations, and worked relentlessly to meet them. I believed that my worth was defined by my achievements, by how well I performed in school, in work, by how others perceived me, and by how flawlessly I presented myself to the world. I thought I was strong, but in reality, I was fragile. Because beneath that carefully crafted exterior of self-assurance, a deep-seated inferiority lingered. The fear that in the eyes of others, I won't measure up to the expected image and will be criticized, trampled upon, looked down upon, and despised. I first became aware of this inner contradiction in my early 20s, during what would become my greatest failure. Until that moment, I had prided myself on my academic achievements and the praise I received from both teachers and peers. But when I failed a crucial exam, something within me shattered. It wasn't just the sting of failure, it was the overwhelming feeling that my very sense of self was crumbling. To make matters worse, my teacher accused me of plagiarism. In front of my entire class, he loudly voiced his suspicions, humiliating me beyond words. All I wanted was to vanish, to escape their condemning gazes. The accusation was baseless, but I had no solid evidence to clear my name. Despite all my previous efforts and accomplishments, the teacher seemed to overlook everything else, and this single incident eclipsed my entire semester. As if that wasn't enough, another event quickly followed. A girl from my class asked me out on a date. Not wanting to disappoint her, I agreed, even though I had no romantic interest. Unfortunately, some classmates saw us together and immediately began gossiping that we were a couple. The rumors spread quickly. In reality, there was nothing between us, but soon after, she kept asking me out again. When I finally mustered the courage to politely decline, she retaliated by telling everyone that I was the villain, someone who had taken advantage of her and heartlessly discarded her. I was stunned, helpless, and completely misrepresented. It felt as if I were caught in a web of misunderstandings, no longer in control of how others saw me. The entire school seemed to believe the worst about me, and no matter what I said or did, I couldn't shift their perception. I began to sink deeply into an overwhelming sense of inferiority. I had always been known as the successful one, the intelligent one. If I wasn't that, then who was I? The sense of shame was suffocating. I distanced myself from my friends, avoided any conversations about the test and relationship, and drowned in self-doubt. My self-esteem, which I had once believed to be unbreakable, had crumbled like a house of cards. I wanted to run away, to escape everyone's gaze. Thoughts of dropping out of school, or even leaving the city altogether, flooded my mind. But no matter how many times I turned the idea over, the reality of my situation, complicated by countless factors, left me powerless to truly escape. Desperate, I turned to my sister for help. She didn't judge my thoughts too much, but instead handed me some books about self-worth and vulnerability she recommended. In my search for answers, I came across the words of Brené Brown, who wrote, "Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness." That struck a chord with me. I had spent my whole life avoiding vulnerability, thinking that appearing strong meant never showing weakness. But in doing so, I had also robbed myself of the opportunity to be truly authentic. It was then that I began to understand the paradox. The stronger my self-esteem had seemed, the heavier my feelings of inadequacy became when that image was threatened. My confidence had never been built on a true acceptance of myself. It had been built on a desperate need to be seen as competent, worthy, and impressive. I had mistaken external validation for inner strength, and the moment that validation was taken away, I was left with nothing but my own self-judgment. Then, I started to confront my reality instead of running from it. I carried on with school and daily life as if nothing had changed. The gossip behind my back, they were nothing more than distant echoes I chose not to hear. Some friends faded away without a word, their absence more telling than any goodbye. Perhaps my struggles unsettled them, or maybe I no longer aligned with the image they once held of me, the capable one, the promising one. Their silence cut deep, a stark reminder of how quickly admiration can dissolve into indifference. But then there were those who stayed. They didn't offer grand speeches or empty reassurances. They simply remained, unwavering in their presence, never judging me for what had happened. They saw me, not as the flawless figure I had once tried so hard to be, but as a person, flawed, vulnerable, and real. Their acceptance was quiet, but profound, like a steady light in the suffocating darkness. Yet even as I found solace in those who stood by me, I had to confront a harsh truth. Not everyone would like me, and no amount of effort could change that. It was a lesson that cut deep, for I had spent so much of my life trying to be everything to everyone. Ultimately, I had to let it go. I could not live my life trying to be what others expected me to be, nor could I control how they perceived me. In the past, my excessive pride led me to lose myself. I no longer want to live under the weight of others' words, attitudes, and insincere gestures. My actions are guided by the moral principles I believe in, not by the shifting judgments of others. Their opinions cannot break me or shake the foundation of my life. Of course, I am not a perfect person. There are many flaws in how I handle things, but I am learning, reflecting, and growing. This is not something that can be achieved overnight. I need to understand the tests that life presents me, rather than exhaust myself trying to decipher every person's opinion. Constantly molding myself to meet others' expectations only deepens my sense of inadequacy. Slowly, I began the difficult work of redefining my self-worth. I started acknowledging my fears instead of suppressing them. I learned to separate my value as a person from my achievements. It wasn't easy. There were days when the old habits of self-criticism crept back in, when I still felt the sting of failure more deeply than I wanted to admit. But with each step, I grew more accepting of myself, imperfections and all. I must admit that my pride still runs deep, because who wants to reveal their weaknesses to others? However, over time, I've been learning to let go of my insecurities. I no longer live for the approval of others. I live for myself. I trust that those who genuinely care about me will stay by my side, and I no longer feel the need to seek validation from insincere crowds. True confidence doesn't come from evading gossip or criticism. It comes from embracing your vulnerability. When your self-esteem is disrespected and trampled by others' words and actions, it's crucial to learn how to protect yourself. Don't let the outside world influence you too deeply, for such external opinions have no real power in determining your worth. Self-worth is not about being invulnerable, but about being true to yourself. If you find yourself struggling with self-imposed expectations and the fear of inferiority, perhaps it's time for you to adopt this mindset as well. Thank you for watching. Take good care of yourself. See you next time.